Simpsons have been going on for too long is not a new thought. Plenty of people have said The Simpsons should just end already. At this point, it's practically a sunk cost fallacy of itself. How would you even end it? Would it end with a big bang, or would the last episode of the season air and it just not come back? Honestly, I miss watching The Simpsons, but I just can't get into it. It both feels too stuck in the status quo, yet not what I remember. Other people have made videos on the oddness that is the forever floating, changing timeline of The Simpsons. There's just something frustrating to me about watching an episode where Marge wishes she could star in a play and sing when she has. That was an episode. Okay, it was an old episode, but that's how it feels watching it now. So much of the world of The Simpsons is based on what that episode feels like saying. It has a weird, nebulous relationship with canon. For example, Marge and Homer are both mid to late 30s, despite apparently having Bart before they were ready. Which, look, not wanting kids too early is fine, and how early too early is entirely up to each individual person. But even with the floating timeline, that means Homer and Marge met and started dating as teens in high school and had Bart several years later. The way the show framed it, I thought Marge got pregnant at like 20. Young enough to be young, but old enough that it wasn't a teen pregnancy. But depending on what episodes you are watching, Marge is either 34 or 36. With Bart being 10, that makes her around 24 to 26 when she had him. That just doesn't seem way too young to have kids to me. It feels like a pretty normal age. But unless they changed it, Marge and Homer got married because Marge got pregnant. With the ages as is, that is less not ready for a family but okay and let's get married, and more Marge was dating a man for years without him proposing, and they only married because he felt he had to. It also really feels like Marge might have settled for Homer a lot more than the initial implication might be. It's less the weird canon and floating timeline that is the problem. It's more that the characters Homer and Marge were at the beginning are not the type of characters their backstory would lead them to be. Someone who went to high school in the 70s, like Marge and Homer did, will be a bit different than someone who went to high school in the 90s. Guys, they're technically millennials now, but they don't act it. If The Simpsons were written now, all the characters would be different. Which led me to the question of today. What would The Simpsons look like if it was released today? It'd be impossible to try and imagine this without taking the original into account, so I think creating a reboot would be fun. A couple ground rules. First, this is just for fun. Even with my personal gripes with the series, it holds a nostalgic place in my heart. Nothing I say will take away what the original was, and still is. Second, this is a reimagining from the ground up. Clean slate. Nothing from canon is in this reboot. My version of the characters are inspired by the originals, but are basically original characters at this point. Third, this is how I would reboot these characters. The choices and changes I made are based on what I think would be interesting or liked or maybe disliked about the original characters. Basically, even if the show did get a reboot someday in the future, my ideas are based so much on what I would like to see that if an official reboot had anything in common with my video, that would mean they did literally steal my ideas. I would more accept an original show based on these ideas as pure coincidence than a Simpsons reboot doing this. To start with, let's redesign Marge. I like the idea of her still being a stay-at-home mom since that is such a large part of who she is. Her aesthetic is a traditional wife. She cooks and cleans and looks good while doing it. The big twist? It is her job. She is a family vlogger. She plays into the ideals of a housewife, but it is mostly for show. Marge is the primary breadwinner, and she does earn decent money doing this. This idea has a couple reasons I think it would be interesting and why I think it would work. Marge is the center of the family, but she also has always cared about appearances. It also introduces flaws for Marge. As much as it may appear she is a doting mother, she is constantly filming her family, their struggles and such, and putting it online for the world to see. Her kids have no real privacy and often have to perform for the camera. A bad grade isn't just a bad grade, it's used as a plot point in an episode of her show. This will also allow me to get rid of a recurring plot point that I've long grown tired of in The Simpsons, and that is their money troubles. When it first aired, they were a lower middle class family. They didn't have a lot of nice stuff, but they had a house and weren't worried about going hungry. Homer losing his job all the time and then having to get it back or jumping onto whatever random idea he has slowly over the years stopped being fun, at least for me. With the economy the way it is, Homer wasting money feels very different than it used to. Homer bought an RV due to Marge trying to manage the household expenses back in 2005, and that almost drove them to divorce. When Homer does stuff like that in more recent episodes, it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Either money is tight and Homer is wasting it, or money is not an actual problem and I'd like the show to stop acting like it is. So in my version, money isn't a problem. Marge manages it well and it can fluctuate from month to month if the story wants to go that way, but they never actually are worried about the mortgage or bills. I think this could create an interesting dynamic. The cameras are on. A lot. She has literally made a career of filming her family's private life. Her kids and Homer are used to be giving roles for when the cameras are rolling. This Marge is a bit more openly selfish, often putting her channel above her kids' emotional needs. She does truly love her family, but she both enjoys the spotlight as well as this is literally how she puts food on the table, so it's easy to rationalize things. They still live in the 2-story house in this version. It serves a good aesthetic appeal to make them seem more like a normal family, and due to Homer's antics, how flush they are with cash isn't always certain. Homer gets some changes too, of course. Homer is childish and impulsive, but more of a himbo than an outright idiot. Marge did not settle for him. He is not obese or bald, though he has a bit of a dad bod. They both love each other deeply. Think more Gomez and Morticia energy. He does not have a steady day job, because he doesn't have to. No nuclear power plant in this version. Instead, his crazy jobs are his main job. One week he's working at the bowling alley, the next he is trying to get into real estate. The next, he might have accidentally started a cult or an MLM. He both enjoys having crazy jobs when he wants, but that is also his fun money, or for when he wants to buy something for Marge without her knowing. Honestly, the show treats his day job like an afterthought of an afterthought anyway. I think it would be more fun if we didn't need to justify why or how Homer is able to keep his job. You can only lampshade something so much. Eventually, that's all a story is, a bunch of lampshades strung together. I do have another change for Homer, and it's a big one. He is no longer an alcoholic. He is allowed to drink a beer now and then. I don't have any more opposition to that. It's just, I don't find it funny or fun anymore. There are episodes where Marge is aware of the fact of how bad Homer's health is and that the man is practically on death's door. Again, some of those episodes are funny, but as time goes on, it feels like the money problems, the heart attack, obese, alcoholic, and stupidity jokes just get old and stop hitting as hard. When Homer can say, should I do the thing I'm supposed to do or the thing everyone knows I'm going to do, it just kind of hits that his unpredictability is predictable. Part of my change is I want to bring Homer and Marge closer together. I don't want to be thinking Marge should divorce Homer when I watch random episodes, or realize that there are an awful lot of episodes of The Simpsons where either Homer or Marge nearly have an affair. This Homer's crazy jobs make for fun and interesting vlogging. What job will he have this week? How long will his current one last? He knows how to act in front of a camera at least. Bart and Lisa get a small change visually. The original Simpson style is iconic and I would never change it, but since this is its own thing, the kids have the hair color of their parents. I settled on blue because narratively I want Marge to try and pressure Lisa to be like a little her. Bart is still a troublemaker. He pulls pranks all the time and is always causing trouble. He even calls both his parents by their first names, Homer and Marge, off camera. He knows better than to misbehave on camera. On camera, he's a bit rowdy, but overall a decent kid, and makes sure to call his parents mom and dad for the audience. But he is struggling with his whole life being filmed, and that is what leads him to acting out. He isn't an idiot, just a normal kid. He has some friends, and plenty of kids who like to pretend they are his friends due to being kinda famous. Oh, that's sort of another thing that I kinda got tired of in the show. Bart and Lisa don't have friends in the show. They used to early in the show, and there are a handful of episodes where Lisa makes friends, but by the next episode, it's back to the status quo. As large of a cast as The Simpsons is, Springfield feels kind of empty. At a certain point, The Simpsons have met everyone. Krusty the Clown can just show up to Simpson's house as a house guest if the show wants. Lisa has worked with Mr. Burns. But if you aren't one of the main cast, you are a one-note side character. Dr. Herbert? Groundskeeper Willie? I am not redesigning any of the greater cast of characters. For this reboot, they're all gone. The main reason is so many of the characters just wouldn't fit with this version of The Simpsons. For example, where would I put Mr. Burns? Homer doesn't work at the nuclear power plant anymore. His characterization also doesn't really fit with how the wealthy act now. He would have to be born wealthy, be really out of touch, and honestly would never be found at any of the places he owns. He isn't a manager, he is an owner. Mr. Smithers could still be obsessed with his boss, but honestly, he would be a terrible person too. A constant yes man who never tells his boss no and sticks around him due to his attraction to him even though he knows his boss is straight, that is not a good person. It also would be too tempting in the universe where this really was a reboot to sneak in references to the original show. Too tempting to allow a new character to actually be an old character, and that just wouldn't work for the vibe I'm going for. Back to the characters. I haven't put a ton of thought into Bart beyond normal 10-year-old boy and prank stuff. Honestly, at times he might be a lot like his original version, but with maybe a bit more reason to act out. Lisa is hard. I kinda wanna make her a nerd, but like an actual nerd. Make her into games, anime, comics and stuff. Her and Bart butt heads a normal amount. A little more than they used to because Lisa is still playing the good girl role while Bart is getting upset at all the vlogging. And I don't really want her to be a vegetarian. I feel like her activism has become a bit of a problem in the show. She can be in the veggies, but it's just not a trait I would want to deal with writing. Let her be a kid, but I don't want her to be the outcast of the family or the author's mouthpiece. This Lisa will have friends. Make her into books and games. I think for this version of The Simpsons, it's important to also think about the type of stories that can be told. Don't do a single one-off episode about a popular book series. It can be a reoccurring thing. The main thing as well, I think, is that as much as each episode would be its own contained story, we do not go back to status quo every time. Homer doesn't have to have a new job each episode because, hear me out, instead of doing either a shallow take of him being a food truck owner this week, or cramming everything we can think of and get it shut down by the end of the episode, he is still running that food truck the next week if there are still places to go with it. He started a food truck last week, but we have a different story for this week that doesn't leave time for mentioning the food truck. Don't mention it, and have him still in the food truck the next week. I'm bored of the A-plot leads to B-plots of Simpsons too. Sometimes I'm actually interested in the inciting incident to only have them drop it for the real point of the episode. Or because they have to have the initial setup, the B-plot feels rushed because we can't have the status quo really change, so we need to destroy whatever was set up. Now what about baby Maggie? She isn't born yet. That would literally be part of the plot of the very first episode. Marge decides to get pregnant. That's always a great plot line for the vlog. Baby stuff also is super popular. Marge can get visibly pregnant over several episodes until baby Maggie is born. I would give Maggie brown hair so she matches her dad, and that can totally be a cute thing, with him of course going along with the new baby for Marge, but falling in love with his little baby girl when he sees her. It would also show right away that time moves forward in this version. The kids can have birthdays, grow older, and things that happen would matter. Of course, this is just a fun thought exercise. I'm not going to be making any fanfics or additional fan art of this idea. I'd watch it if it existed, but this was the extent of the effort I am going to put out into this idea. Unless Fox wanted to pay me for this idea. Pay me enough and I'll totally actually plan this thing through. For free, you get vibes.